Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. I hope everyone is remembering to log into EVE every day for the new gifts that CCP is coming out with. I think those last until the end of the year and they always only last for 24 hours that you can redeem them. So you want to log into the game every day in order to collect all of them. There should also be a Sunday recap. In an 07 show on Sunday, so that's pretty cool. And normally with the update from this week we should have better charts during this EVE talk. So let's get going, let's get into the market, and as always we will start with some plex right here. Let's take this if you want to fetch the orders, yes. And that's at around 50 seconds. Sounds good to me. So let's get started. Plex coming in at around 1,055 million now. The bars are at 1,011 million. And if you look at the price history, here is the new chart. So we can just put this up to around 6 months to get a good idea. And you can see the increase in price up until mid-November with a high of 1,023 million, 230 million. Then we've got a little bit of a down slope in December. And here now 1 billion, just above 1 billion is where we're sitting at. And there is clearly a little bit of hesitation. You can see the median daily prices going up as well a little bit. Right now we're basically hesitating about whether to take plexes up or down. So for me personally, this is okay. I managed to sell more than half my plex at more than 1 billion too. And now if we have a second spike up and there is a second sell opportunity, then I can get rid of the rest of my plex at a profit. If not, I'm willing to hold on to them until a next sell opportunity, which will probably take like a year if the pattern holds up. But during that time, of course, then we will be able to watch out for a new buy opportunity at like a less than 1 billion price or something like that. So diversification or dollar cost averaging, I think is what it's called, in plex is definitely possible from this point on. But just look at the very end here. There is a little bit of hesitation in the market as well. So if a second spike up does happen, then of course you might not want to start too early with buying your plex. I feel like we've got plenty of time. I would start looking to buy maybe, let's see, March, April, something like that is probably where I would start to really take a good look at plexes, see what they've been doing in the last few months, and then jump in for some cheap ones to just again reduce the average price of the stocks that I have left. Next up, let's go for the trading certificates. So, I actually forgot something. We'll quickly do that. It's a correct request, especially for plexes. Let's see what they're doing in just a new one coming in at 1,030,000,030, trying to compete with the Trade Hub in perimeter. There they're selling for 1,030,000,000, and the buyers are at well, there's one buyer at 1,016,000,000, which is only a little bit above. Oh no, here 1,015,000,000 as well, which is a little bit above the prices in JITA as well. So you've got slightly lower purchasing prices there, slightly higher buying prices there as well. They can of course do that because of the lower taxes, but in general what I'm reading here is a little bit of hesitation in the plex market, but I still think it's most likely, considering what's coming in here in the last 24 hours, in the last few hours in fact, that plexes are going to continue to go down slowly. So that's my read on the market here. And this is the new chart. What I've gotten from this so far, I did a little bit of checking before as well, is that it seems to basically put a better visual range automatically in here. So let's go to the multiple pilot train certificates next. Of course, very close charts to the plexes. These are now selling for 1,070,000,000. The buyers are at 1,002,000,000. Perimeter market here is, well, it's there. It's just not as significant. There's just one seller at 1,050,000,000. So I think plex is still really the bread and butter of the perimeter trade hub. What we can see on the chart though is that the continued downward pressure on the pilot training certificate does not stall like it does on the plex chart, which is another indication that we are very likely to see continued downward pressure on the plex market as well, despite the hesitation here, because of course there is this very strong correlation between the training certificates and the plex market itself. Next up, we've got the body resculpts. All right, pretty interesting. Definitely, I'm seeing some hesitation here as well. 5-day and 20-day moving average really coming right on top of each other at the tail end here. These are currently selling for 279 million, and the bars are at 235 million. But as you can see, this market is completely drying up. So the body resculpt certificate knew a very nice bit of activity when the skill extractors first came out, because people wanted to resculpt their alts to get, well, both the right skill set and the right look for their character, but that has definitely died down, and the alpha clones have not really renewed interest in the body resculpt certificate. This one spike here I actually think was more of an investment gamble of someone purchasing a lot of these training certificates, because there's just none left here on the market, maybe 10 of them, and the buyers are also very timid. So very, very tiny market, which can be prone to violent swings then because of that, right? It wouldn't take a lot of ISK to just buy everything out of Cheetah at the moment. Maybe a quick look at the perimeter market. It's only 3 more. That's not going to really affect things too much, but it also means that there's just very little demand for this service in EVE at the moment. Skill extractors could be interesting. Again, very close to the plex chart. Let's take a quick look at sellers. 241 million, the buyers are at 233 million. And here on the chart again, the peak in November up to 300 million, and now the down pressure down to 240 million. Here again, 5-day moving average and 20-day moving average are continuing to decline very slowly in the end here. It's definitely slowing down here as well. But the median daily prices keep trying to go a little bit lower as well. So I'm seeing continued pressure on the skill extractors, which also means that there should be continued pressure on the plex market itself as well. Number of sellers, as you can see, that's already like around 2 pages of new skill extractors coming in, and the numbers are pretty high, 57, 80, 60. It's definitely a lot of extractors that are still coming to the market all the time. Next up, we've got the skill injectors, selling for 627 million, and the buyers are at 601 million. I feel that this is decently affordable for alpha characters as well, who will get the 100% benefit from skill injectors. So I think, are the prices up a little bit? Let's take a look at the chart. Yep, definitely. After a bit of a very deep period right here, right around the November-December switch down to 570 million. We recovered to 600 million, 610. There is a slight hesitation, but the good news is 5-day moving average and 20-day moving average are now slowly moving up here. And yeah, it means, I think, higher demand for skill injectors, which is the most likely coming from alpha clones. You can also see this in the volumes. Before November, you can see the average volumes never really getting above, what would this be, 6,000, and now you do have regular days where we are averaging maybe 7,500, something like that, and a couple of outliers here with 10,000 units being traded every day. I think is an indication of increased interest for skill injectors, which correlates with the premium compared to what it was a little bit before. The all-time low, that's strange, 570. This is still saying, oh, there we go, 550 million in September, right here in the last 6 months or so. So we are on average prices, but I think that these are actually pretty strong prices and that we have pretty strong demand in the skill injector market. Next up, we're moving on to some minerals at 920. Let's take a quick look at these. First of all, titanium, that's not good news. There was a slight bit of a bump that you can see here on the chart. I think this was the announced Rorqual nerf, but market forces are just dictating lower prices for titanium, and we're heading for 4 ISK, which, if I'm not mistaken, we have seen before, but it's pretty rare. And here we can see now that titanium is under pressure. I have 529. Yeah, I have 529 on the ticker, and since then, as you can see here, just like 24 minutes ago, someone came in with almost 1 billion units at 528. So people are still bringing a lot of these minerals to the market at the moment. There must be higher yields in general, and I think a lot of this will actually be coming from nullsec as well, where Rorquals are still mining up a storm. The nerf of 32% is probably not going to dissuade people from mining in the Rorqual in nullsec. And here we have a median daily price so far of, well, a little bit above. Well, this is close to 4.6 ISK. The bar is bearing at 495. This is really weird. So this should maybe be an indication of something that happened in nearby. Let's take a look at that. Nope, here they go up to 511, and here they are at 483. That's a weird sell order here, just 9 jumps away. But I would say that the mineral market, especially titanium here, is seriously under pressure at the moment, and this is very cheap historically speaking, and not entirely unseen, I think, but definitely worrying to see how quickly this is all going down now since the Rorqual changes. Next up, we've got pyrites. At least here we have a little bit of hesitation. Of course, we were already going down towards 6 ISK, which was very low for pyrite. I don't think I've actually ever seen pyrite this low. Sellers are at 7.49, the buyers are at 7 ISK. So why does this tell me 6 ISK on these? That's a little bit weird. I guess it's 6.9, and then it will always round down to the number. So it's actually closer to 7 ISK here on the chart. A little bit of hesitation at the tail end on increased volumes. People are starting to probably pick up some pyrite stocks at around 6 ISK. No, at below 7 ISK if they can. So 7 ISK seems to be defended a little bit by the market. But if I look at what's happening in titanium, I think we're going to see continued pressure here as well. The sellers, not that many in the last 24 hours. So they are bringing 50 million here, 50 million here, but not that many are coming in as in titanium. Fresh orders, let's take a look at those very quickly. Yeah, full front page of new sell orders. That is of course going to mean more pressure on the titanium price. Next up, we've got Mexalon. Let's take a look at this price chart first. I think that could be the most interesting. Definitely not good either, heading down towards, let's take a quick look here at an average price. Man, so the median daily price is a little bit harder to grab. That's a little bit weird. And this doesn't scale the chart all too well. This only changes the scale, so I'll need to do something different for the chart. At least it's a useful chart at this point, which I like. Now what happens here? You can downscale. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Alright, a little bit of a bug. I'll need to get my ass on CC and take a look at the new market window, I think. Because this is not entirely what we should be seeing, I think. Sellers are at 55.21, buyers are at 52.20. So we are obviously dipping down substantially in price. Now I can actually go for average prices, 55 ISK. We are substantially going down, but here again the market is probably going to try to defend 50 ISK. You can also see some increased volumes as well, which I think is another indication that people are starting to build up stocks of these minerals as they continue to go down in price to very low prices. For Mexalon, 55 is not unheard of. We've seen this before, but this is definitely not in the good price range anymore. This is in a price range where I would hesitate to just sell my Mexalon. Next up here we've got Isogen. Again, we had a little bit of hesitation last week at 62 ISK, but now we've broken that and we're down to 57 ISK. Where are the sellers at? 59.69 selling Isogen straight to the market for less than 60 ISK. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Buyers are at 54.83, very low as well. So still willing to drive the price of Isogen down even lower. This is a 1-year low, a 6-month low, very cheap Isogen. One pattern that I'm noticing here as well is increased volumes. I think people are starting to build their stocks of this as well. hoping for a turnaround at some point, which I think could happen. I'm not sure if this is exactly what CCP wants to see in the mineral market. Next up, we've got Noxium here. Let's take a look at that chart. Unfortunately, continued pressure as well. Although it's slowing down, it's hesitating a little bit. You can see that sometimes the 5-day moving average does come close to the 20-day moving average, but the general intent here is obviously to continue to put more pressure on the price of Noxium. Average daily price of 370 is pretty low. Again, a couple of volume spikes in increased volumes on people, I think, stocking up on this cheap Noxium. Sellers are at 386 ISK, buyers are at 346 ISK. Less than 350 for Noxium is pretty damn cheap. Fresh supply, nothing completely out of order, maybe 6 new sell orders in the last 24 hours. But you can see the trend, it's definitely down, and that is quite unfortunate for people that are mining all of this stuff. For Nulsic, let's start with Zydrine. The only good news, which is a little bit strange, right, is that the Nulsic minerals are actually recovering a little bit. So we had like a low point of 970 ISK, 930, that's not really correct, 971, 935, that's above this one. Very weird. Okay, I'll need to do a little bit of testing on this stuff, because 926 makes sense here. Oh, 930, all right, finally showed me the right price. Maybe it needs a little bit more time to this is 971, there we go. So lows of 930, we are recovering to 1043 ISK. Sellers are at 1044, buyers are at 950. Strangely enough, in-station trading is drying up. Usually, especially for minerals, you do get more than a full page of sell orders. Here, this is just not happening. And in the perimeter, is the perimeter market taking over? No, it's not. The cheapest price is still right here in station. Very interesting. Increased volumes are here. A lot of people, again, stocking up on the cheap Zydrine for less than 1000 ISK. And it's, yeah, basically drying up here. That's really weird. Although 46 million coming in, but is that in the last 24 hours? I don't think so. It's only these 409,000 ISK coming in right there. So a bit of a recovery, but I'm seeing this mostly driven by speculative demand, people buying up all the cheap Zydrine. Next up here we got Megasite, very similar charts, even more pronounced than in Zydrine, with bottom prices of around 1000 ISK. Yeah, right here 1000 ISK. Now recovering to almost 1300 ISK. I did buy some Megasite on the downtrend. I'm not exactly sure if I'm making a lot of profit at the current price ranges, but sellers are at 1243 ISK, buyers are at 1220 ISK. And for the supply, at least it's a little bit better. You get a few orders, but they're pretty tiny in quantity. Coming in here, the biggest order is also 16 days, so from a bigger player at 18 million units right there. So Nulsic minerals recovering a little bit. That is very counterintuitive if you ascribe the Hysic mineral lower prices to the Rorcal changes, because the Rorcal changes would firstly normally have an impact on these Nulsic minerals. So is there some kind of market manipulation happening? It's possible. Is it possible that the pressure to the Hysic minerals is coming from another source as well? I think that's a possibility too. So this is pretty weird to see Megasite bounce back up this hard all of a sudden. And finally, we've got Morphite. That could be interesting as well. Still slowly going up in price, 9,838 as an average. Yeah, 9,838 for the sellers, 9,100 for the buyers. Still below 10,000 ISK, so still I think okay to invest in if you expect minerals to recover at some point, but definitely not the low point anymore. November, December seems to have been a very important peak time, which is of course the Ascension expansion, when plex were at a peak and minerals seem to have found a bottom, at least the Nulsic ones here. We've got Zydrine at the bottom here as well, in the second half of November, early December, and for Megasite as well, of course, very pronounced. So very important date here, the Ascension expansion having its impact. It's just very difficult to predict exactly what's happening, because for the Isaac minerals here, it's definitely it hasn't changed the momentum. We're still going down quite substantially, but the Nosec minerals are recovering a little bit. So is this only the Rorquals doing? Personally, I don't think so. I think there's a bit more going on than just that. Next up, we've got PI. That's at 2010. Yeah, all right, let's make it 2010. And let's get started on these. I think we can stick to the charts on the construction on most of these, unless something, well, actually very interestingly here, we've got lower prices than throughout the summer, get a little bit of a recovery, and we have markedly higher volumes here on the construction blocks. So I think I do want to take a look at sellers and buyers. Sellers are at 12,278 ISK. The buyers are at 10,808. What we can see is that the buyers are not coming in with a lot of fresh buy orders, but the sellers are managing to dictate the price very strongly. So there is strong demand. Supply, fresh supply, well, it's okay. This is from 2 days ago, pretty much a front page. The volumes are not that high, but okay. Construction block prices staying decently close to what I would consider to be an average price of a little bit above 12,000 ISK, and this despite pretty high volumes and low number of buy orders right here. Pretty unusual stuff actually. Next up, consumer electronics, also a bit of a slump down after the very strong summer, higher volumes, price recovered a little bit, averaging a little bit above 12,000 ISK, which I think is a slightly above average price, but not by that much anymore. And interestingly enough, what I'm seeing here is that during the recovery we do have higher volumes, but this is already trending down to more normal volumes for consumer electronics. So I'm interested on this side here once again. 13,000 ISK for the sellers, buyers are coming in at 10,871 ISK, and the interesting part is that the price, of course, the medium average price is at 12,000 and a little bit, which means that for consumer electronics you have both sellers that are managing to sell at these prices, but you also have buyers that are able to pick up consumer electronics at like 11,000 ISK, averaging 12,000 or just a little bit more than that. And here it seems to be a more active market. You've got more fresh supply, you've got more buy orders as well, but you have very similar charts to construction blocks, whereas construction blocks seems to be completely dictated by the sellers at the moment. Very interesting stuff, because I think in both these markets it means that a change will have drastically different impact, right? More supply on consumer electronics is probably not going to crash the price all that much, because, well, some of that fresh supply will also go to these buyers, and it's definitely possible that the consumer electronics market can absorb higher supply, whereas construction blocks, right, sellers are not going to go straight to the buyers that much. Fresh supply, because of the small margin, this much smaller margin between the sellers and the buyers here, and the lack of really a lot of demand, means that fresh supply is probably just going to keep being added to the sellers market, which is going to eventually decrease the price under that pressure, which consumer electronics can probably manage a lot better. So it shows the importance of the seller and the buyer orders as well, I think right here. So let's move on to the coolants. Nice bit of recovery as well. So we're seeing this pattern of going after a strong summer, or here a strong September, slowly going down in price, but after reaching 10,000 ISK in this case, which is still probably okay, we do bounce back up here a little bit to 12,000 ISK, so nice recovery for coolants. New supply is coming in though, putting some pressure on that. You can see here almost the entire front page has come in the last 24 hours, pushing the price towards 12,000 ISK. Let's disregard this one sell order. And the buyers are at 11,700 ISK, also pretty small margins. So this is, this is also dying down, right? You don't have that many buy orders. You've got a few fresh buy orders. This is coming closer to the construction block situation. If more supply keeps coming, which it seems to be doing, if you look at these numbers, then I think that coolants is at least going to flatten out, if not straight up go down back a little bit towards maybe 11,500 or something like that. What we don't see here is the higher volumes all of a sudden. That's definitely much less pronounced than in the previous goods. Next up, enriched uranium. Let's take a look at that one. All right, different stuff here, going towards a 6-month low, trying to 12,300 ISK. Seems to be coming into play, which is where we started at. So again, strong summer September, declining in price, increased volumes, but also decreasing prices, which should mean that we're seeing a lot of fresh supply and just not that much demand. Exactly, not that much demand here in the buyers. And unlike with the construction blocks, what you're seeing is a full front page with 23,000, 25,000 units coming in the last 24 hours, which is putting continued pressure on the enriched uranium price, almost coming to a 6-month low. So definitely it could be interesting to put up a few buy orders in between the buyers and the sellers here to try and pick up some of that cheap enriched uranium at the moment. Historically speaking though, if we are seeing here on the 1-year chart just a little bit before this started, this 12,000 range is actually up from what it was just a few months ago. So this is not going to be a 1-year low just yet. Keep that in mind before jumping in all too much on enriched uranium. Mechanical parts next. Completely opposite. We have what I would consider to be an average to weak summer, weak compared to the other PI materials, and we've only gone up now in the last few months towards, let's see what it's like. God damn it, yeah, the chart does bug out from time to time. Sellers are at 11,500 ISK, buyers are at 11,300 ISK, fresh buyers, well, a couple of them. Fresh supply, not that much anymore, and as a result, yeah, mechanical parts are winning out, doing really well, above average, heading towards, yeah, probably a 1-year low, definitely a 6-month low, possibly a 1-year low. So this is a good time to be producing and selling mechanical parts. Very interesting to see the differences in all of these refined PI materials at the moment that are showing up after we had a general vibe of a strong summer, a bit of a decline. Now we have some of them recovering, some of them continuing to decline, some of them seeing high demand and high supply. And then here in mechanical parts, we actually see one that is having a strong winter here. Next up, we get oxygen, continually under pressure, apparently going towards 400 ISK today. Buyers are at 441, sellers are at 464. So the current median daily price is definitely out of whack. Something is wrong with that one. So here this price 440, 443. If you look at the entire 1-year chart down below, it's probably around an average price still, but of course after the strong summer here, it does feel like oxygen is a little bit low and under pressure. Fresh supply, not much to report here. Fresh demand, well, a little bit, 600,000 units here. You know, it looks like this is decently, yeah, actually decently in line with each other. So I could see oxygen basically meandering around this current price range for a little bit. Next up, we've got robotics. After a very strong summer for robotics, we had a little bit of a decline. I am seeing increased volumes, but I'm seeing basically stable prices for robotics. So I'm basically thinking okay supply, 31,000 coming in here. And okay demand as well. Yeah, there is definitely some demand coming in as well. Sellers are at 95,500 ISK, buyers are at 91,500 ISK, so 4,000 ISK mineral margin here, 5%, something like that. Definitely pretty small, and there is supply, there is demand. I think robotics with a slight trend on the downtrend, but not all that noticeable, is looking pretty good to stay stable for now. Rocket fuels next. Okay, it's still the weird chart with the median daily prices all over the place, so very hard to say exactly what's happening with rocket fuel, but sticking to the 5-day moving average, we have an okay summer. around average, a bit of a decline in October, and now since early November we're actually increasing in price for rocket fuel. High point here, almost 13,000 ISK, currently 12,000 and a little. Sellers are at 12,900 ISK, buyers are at 11,000 ISK, pretty wide margin. Fresh supply is decent, overall supply is not that high, which I guess could be an indication that sometimes that rocket fuel is maybe just not traded enough to give us median daily prices that correlate strongly with the average prices. So what that would mean is that on a single day, let's take a quick look at the volumes. Well, actually at 370 million units a day, it should be doable to have decent average prices. But I get the idea that on one day it's like 90% of the sellers that are managing to sell their rocket fuel, and then on the next day it's just 90% of the people that are bringing rocket fuel to the market that are selling straight to the buyers. That's pretty much the only way, unless it's a bug, that I can explain these median daily prices being all over the place like this. Very weird stuff. General trend for rocket fuel, I would say, is up and slightly above average at the moment, so definitely okay to try to sell. Self-harmonizing power cores. Let's take a look at this chart. So this is of course one that is tied very closely to the structures, the citadels and the engineering complexes. 6 months ago we were decreasing in price from the citadel expansion itself with a low point of around 2 million. Then we have basically a double jump up towards 3 million for the engineering complexes, and now the same pattern is repeating again. Self-harmonizing power cores under pressure, heading below 2.5 million. Sellers are at 2.5 million, buyers are at 2.3 million, but fresh supply, full front page of fresh self-harmonizing power cores coming in. Demand is definitely being able to wait it all out a little bit, and thus as a result these are clearly under pressure. Superconductors next. These were doing quite okay, but not for all that long. So very interesting again, superconductors doing something quite different than most of the other PI materials we've seen, with actually a weak summer and September. Right here, heading towards 10,000 ISK on the chart after doing much better before that at the Citadel expansion, and then going up towards November. Here is the Ascension expansion, bit of hesitation, a jump up, and now here we actually have almost a falling off of a cliff at 17,000 ISK. So let's see if a lot of supply came in. Yeah, it's definitely coming in. This is more than a full front page, including several sellers, 40,000 units coming in here, putting pressure on the price, driving the seller price down to 16,600 ISK. Buyers are still at 14,100 though. So I would say superconductors are peaking, but are still in a pretty good place on average, and definitely good to still try to sell these at the moment. Test cultures next. Yeah, the charts are definitely giving more a clearer picture of trends, but there might be some bugs here and there. Test cultures, after a decline through summer, and then here in September, October, having basically a bottom with bottom prices at 7,200 ISK. Look at the sharp increase in price on what I'm reading as increased demand because of this high volume spike, heading up towards 15,600 ISK median daily price. Is that correct? Yes. Lack of supply, 16,000 ISK for the sellers, 13,600 ISK for the buyers. This is the right time to bring test cultures to the market if you have them, and if you manage to buy at these low prices, you're basically doubling your price at the moment. That's pretty crazy. A doubling of the price in basically 1 to 3 months or something like that is definitely not bad. So this bottom price here was a great time to buy. Unfortunately, I don't think that I was checking PI weekly at that point just yet. But here we go. Test cultures very much alive, and one of the best sell opportunities that are showing up here with a clear buy opportunity just 3 and 4 months ago. Pretty nice to see, because that does mean that there is opportunity in the market in general. With our mainframes then, oh, this chart is actually a little bit a little bit less pronounced than I would have thought, but here again, very highly tied to citadels and engineering complexes. You can see the downtrend after the citadel expansion, the bump up here in October, expecting more demand, or probably seeing more demand for preparations for engineering complexes, but on average here we're staying pretty flat at the current price range of 2.8 million, 2.9 million for the sellers, 2.7 for the buyers, right on average. Fresh supply is pretty high though, full front page, whereas the buyers, only one new buyer in the last 24 hours. I think that it's basically not being shown too well in the market, but on the price chart here, but that there is pressure on wetware mainframes, and that we're probably going to go down a little bit in price in the upcoming weeks and months. So that's PI. Honestly, I'm very happy to have added this one to Eve Talk because it's a very, very interesting market, and it seems that although the general trend did feel like low summer activity, high PI prices, people coming back after the summer were declining in price. There are some exceptions to that rule that make PI very interesting because I'm seeing trade potential throughout the year there. I'm seeing some potential buy opportunities form in some of those that had a very strong summer, and some of those that had a weak summer are actually showing really good sell opportunities right now. So it's definitely a very, very interesting market. Next up, the Tech 2 market, 35.25. Let's quickly go over these. Basically, the idea is we'll try to see if the trend for alpha clones to go towards destroyers and cruisers is actually happening. If we look at the Caracal chart, it's definitely not happening. We do have slightly higher volumes, but we also have lower prices heading towards 10 million for a Caracal, which is definitely well below average. 10.1 million, 10.2 million, let's say, for the sellers, 9.5 million for the buyers. Fresh supply still coming in, half a front page, 53, 55, 13 right here. So just look at all of the supply that is available, and that's coming in the last week. People are overproducing Caracals. There is just not as much demand as people were expecting. And personally, I would have thought that this would be stronger. I would also have thought that alpha characters would move up to Caracals more quickly than apparently they've been doing. It's fun to fly frigates. There we go. Here's the Courser, a destroyer. All right, the first sign that maybe this one is going up in price just a little bit. Unfortunately, it's coming after a dip in price as well to 1.18 million. 2 million median daily price, that's a little bit weird. Yeah, 1.6 million. So this is not just alpha character activity. This is actually someone buying out the Courser market, and which is going to be this volume spike right here, basically. Driving up the price a little bit. Fresh supply is coming in on this opportunity and will probably crush the price quite quickly. The question is, will we have oversupply and will we thus again overshoot a little bit? Basically, it is definitely possible. The volumes here, 150, yeah, 150 to 200 chips a day is not that much and is easily manipulated by a single person with a decent wallet. So I think that's more likely what has happened here. Someone buying out all the Courser, potentially for their alliance or for their alpha clones to fly, potentially as a speculative move, but I don't think that that's going to happen because people know that for destroyers, the industrial backbone of EVE Online can actually bring a lot of destroyers to the market in very short order. Next up, let's take a look at the Dominic's charts. All right, current average prices 300 million, a little bit less than that. Oh, this is the, what the hell? Showing, yeah, there's definitely some bugginess here. And this is, all right, at least it's doable to bring some volumes in here. So a single data point here is definitely causing some problems for the chart, but you can go like this, and then we can see that the Dominic's actually under continued pressure here with 170. All right, that looks pretty bad. Sellers are coming in at 174 million. Buyers are at 156 million ISK. So this could start to be the pressure from the lower mineral prices. Because people can of course now start producing Dominic's for a much lower price considering the lower mineral prices, and thus we can see these prices go down. I think it's also natural that it's going to show up in the battleship market first, because those are the biggest all-around ships that you can just fly anywhere, that are decently easy to skill into, decently good PvE platforms as well. So we have battleships are not in the meta at the moment. We probably have decently low volumes. We also have the bigger ships to make, so you have more minerals needed to create Dominixes. Thus the lower prices of minerals will have a more profound impact on Dominixes and on battleships in general. And I think that this is the biggest part of the explanation as to why prices are declining here in the Dominix market. Very cheap Dominixes at the moment, that's for sure. 6-month low is definitely right here. Next up, we've got the Merlin charts. Okay, after a strong first half of December with average prices at 340,000 ISK, maybe a little bit more than that, we're now declining a little bit. So I think that basically production will have caught up. Yeah, in the last 2 days you can see a full front page. They're now going for 300,000 ISK on the sellers, bars at 280,000 ISK. So people did spot this increased interest for the Merlin due to alpha clones. It actually gave us increased prices for a couple of weeks, but by now unfortunately production has caught up and is bringing the price back in line with the normal Merlin price. So the alpha clone character impact on the market, I'm reading this as it's going to be pretty short-lived. Basically enough omega clones have such vast production capabilities that they can plug these holes, that they can basically quickly take advantage of these opportunities, but that also means that they're basically stamping these opportunities back into the ground, back into average prices very quickly. The Oracle next. I'm gonna try to switch the ships by next week, because I think that we are seeing the alpha clone impact. Basically it's done. And now it's going to be the mineral prices that are dictating what's happening here. And for the Oracle, just like for the Dominix, we can see very much decreasing prices under pressure. Average price going to 70 million, which means that sellers are coming in with a lot of Oracles, up to 73 million ISK. Buyers are at 63 million ISK. This could be a little bit of stock dumping as well. But probably this is now doable because of the lower mineral prices and volumes. Yeah, of course, with 50 or so, it's easy to see how lower mineral prices, a bit more production, can drive the price in general down for the battle cruisers as well. Raven next, exactly under pressure quite substantially as well as the mineral prices decrease. This is the exact same thing that's happening. These are now selling for 162 million. Buyers are at 146 million. So basically a bit of deflation that I'm seeing here. Quite interesting. The Thrasher, again, here we do see, I was reading this mid-December as alpha characters starting to skill into the destroyers, but I think it's more an anomalous median daily price of 2.3 million here all of a sudden. And here again, decreased prices under pressure, probably in part due to the mineral impact, maybe also a little bit of overproduction in the last few weeks or days. This is quite a lot here. A couple of days ago, almost 1,000 units coming in here for the Thrasher market. Sellers are at 1,057 million, buyers are at 970 million ISK for the Thrasher. We're a bit below average at the moment, and I think we're here to stay. Next up, we've got the Tornado, probably under pressure as well. Yeah, there you go. I'm reading this as the mineral price changes right across the board. Lower mineral price, especially the high-sec ones, is causing this dive in price right here. Tristan next. Here I'm seeing the full pattern basically. So you've got average prices right here, let's say 500,000 ISK, okay. Mid-November, Ascension expansion, increased demand, increased volumes, increased prices as well. We managed to get like 700,000 ISK for Tristans for a while, but yeah, EVE Online industry is alive and well. They can see this opportunity, thus they're driving back the price towards an average 540, maybe a slight premium because of alpha character activities. But then here now, mineral prices coming in, decreasing the price to 450,000 ISK, well below the average. Increased volumes, people are starting to dump their Tristan stocks as well, and as a result we are now in for some cheap ships in EVE Online, it seems. The Venture next, that one decreased substantially towards 230 million, trying to recover a little bit. The question is fresh supply still coming in? Not that much, but 1,500 and 1,000 of them coming in at less than 330,000 is going to stop this price from increasing all that much. Any new supply is just going to compete with those and is going to drive the price back down. So I think the Venture might have overreacted a little bit. All of a sudden going down to 230,000 was a little bit too cheap, but the increased price is never going to reach this peak of 420,000, which, as you can see, second part of November, increased activity for alpha clones, increased demand. But again, here producers saw the opportunity, tried to bring the price back down towards average, and now I think this decrease in price was, I'm not exactly sure, a bit of dumping happening on these volumes probably, but I think the general trend is that we're going to end up for less than average costs for the Ventures as well. And then finally we've got the Vexor, which should be a stable of stability, right? It's a ship that's good in PvP, good in PvE, decently nice all-around ship that has always known a decently stable market, as you can see right here. Even if I go for the 1 year chart, could be interesting as well. You can see the average price is okay, 12.5 million, between 12 and 13 million is where we usually sit, and we've been able to do this for a decently long time. And god damn you, I hope I didn't miss that for too much of EVE talk. But let's go back towards a 6 month chart around here. What we're seeing here in the end is, of course, man, that volume spike's pretty crazy, that we are under pressure and going for well below average prices now. Sellers are at 10.8 million. Look at that dumping here. This is the last 24 hours, and a couple of days ago as well they started dumping Vexors for less than 11 million. Buyers are at 9.5 million pretty much. And yeah, probably the mineral market showing up in the Tech 1 market as well. Okay, moving on to Tech 2 ships, 4630. I changed those to mostly small Tech 2 ships because I thought that maybe some activity might be able to be spotted here. So let's move to the Ares market. We do see, let me take a quick look here. Average prices probably around here, 24, a little bit above 24 million. We see a couple of slight spikes up to 27 million. You're not going to make a lot of trade money on that, but a bottom here at 21 million, and now we're recovering to 23 million. This was a slight buy opportunity for sure, in my opinion. Sellers are at 23.2, buyers are at 20.6. Not a lot of trade money to be made in the last 6 months. One buy opportunity in November though, which could have been interesting, or could turn out to have been a really nice opportunity if we see another spike like these. Next up, let's take a look at the Claw here. All right, average prices, what would those be? 21 million maybe here. Then all of a sudden here in October we have one massive spike up to 33 million, and now we've recovered and we're stable again. So there's just not a lot of claws. Sellers 22 million, buyers are at 20 million. Okay, this can be manipulated, and I think that might have been, look at these volumes, then the increase in price, and then the recovery of the market. So it's probably market manipulation when it comes to this one claw spike, but at least here from 20 million to 30 million to 27 million, there's some money to be made in this. So all right, the Claw, one opportunity, but I think that this was actually done as part of market manipulation. The Crow next, let's take a look at that one. Again, also a spike in October, increased volumes in October as well. So if it's not market manipulation, it's buying of Nullsec alliances to create interceptor fleets, which are very popular at the moment. Unfortunately, before and after that, you can see a bit too stable around 22 million for the Crow. Sellers are now at 23 million, buyers are at 20.6 million. So yeah, 22 million on average for a Crow. One interesting thing to note is a big volume spike here, no impact on the price, which is pretty unusual. So the October purchasing here, I think could be ascribed to Gnostic alliances. Next up, the Aries, which is an interdictor. Well, decently stable, basically. Not much to say here. We had maybe one opportunity from 40.4 million up to 50 million. Yeah, that's definitely some money to be made there. Unfortunately, since then, tops have gone down, bottoms have gone up. Average price is 44.5 million. Sellers are at 46 million, buyers are at 42 million. Lack of demand, decent supply. This, I don't think, is going anywhere. Unless, of course, a big Gnostic war happens, then of course interdictors will be flown a lot and lost. Flycatcher next, let's take a look at that. So you can see I chose interceptors, interdictors, and then some stealth bombers as well. All right, again pretty bad because of one anomalous median daily price. We're getting this type of a chart, but I think this is just wrong. Average price is a little bit below 60 million. Going down here, can you make money on this? 52 to 60 million. Yeah, you can make a little bit of money on the Flycatcher. Again, in the October November period, I think a bit more war and maybe some interdictors being lost. So there are slight opportunities in these markets, but again, they're very small, very rare, and I think dependent on Gnostic activity. And this chart is pretty bad here at the end, and we're going to drag that along for a very long time. So if next week, if this is still there, then I'm gonna have to remove the Flycatcher because this is gonna make the chart completely unreadable. Next up, we've got the Heretic. Oh, that's a bit more interesting in my opinion. Again, a more interdictor. Bottoms are at around 45 million. Currently sellers are at 52 million. Not a lot of supply, decent demand. That makes for a more vibrant and interesting market when you have buy opportunities at 45 million and sell opportunities at 55, 57 million. Right here, let's say average price, yeah, almost 55 million. I'm back down to 45, back up to 55. This is the type of chart I like to see. So it's possible that heretics were flown a lot in the PL CO2 war situation right there, and this is what I like to see. This is what I love to see in the Tech 2 market, and I think that we have to go for smaller ships that are lost quite often when it comes to Tech 2 in order to find that. Heretic is one example of that. Unfortunately, at the moment we're sitting right in between these two tops, so basically a slowing down. But if Gnostic activity increases, this is definitely one that could be considered very interesting. Next up here, we get the Hound. That's more interesting as well. Finally, after 5 months of nothing, between around 20 million, 21 to 22 million, here we have finally a lovely spike up. So you could have bought these for around 20 million, and here now we have sell opportunities at 27 million. So sellers are unfortunately already back down to 21.2 million, buyers are at 19, but we had an opportunity, we had a spike, we had some activity in a Tech 2 ship, and it's in a covered up stealth bomber. So there you go, awesome to see. Let's hope that Gnostic can make enough waves to show us some interesting things here. Next up, we've got the Malediction. Load up if you please. I may be asking a little bit, quite a lot from the servers here at the moment doing this EVE talk with the new charts, but it's gonna be a good test. I like the scaling here. All these charts feel alive and like we've got a lot of information, which from the Malediction unfortunately means that we're stabilizing at the current price range of 23 million. So I'm expecting 24 million for the sellers. I thought there would be more supply, but we definitely have decent demand as well at 21.4 million. So interceptors, apparently the Malediction is not flown all that often. Next up, we've got the Manticore, covered up frigate, so stealth bomber. Aha, lovely to see the spike up to 29.6 million from 23 million. Money to be made right here, awesome. 24.5 million, 21.4 million. Could be stealth bomber fleets lost or bought for the MO battle. So yeah, bring on Gnostic activity. and Stealth Bomber seems to be doing decently well. Nemesis next, yep, another spike right here, happened just around a week ago, very nice to see. Purifier as well, definitely increased volumes. Price spike is less pronounced, but if you can go from 21.4 million to 26 million, you're potentially making some money on the trade there. And unfortunately, the last 2 days though, we've gone back down substantially. And then finally, I've got another interdictor, which is the Saber. That's nice as well. Look at that, going from 47.6 million to 57.6 million. We recovered, we're past this December spike, but it definitely happened. I think a lot of this could be tied to the MO battle, which means that the Take-Two market is not dead, but we do need Nasdaq activity for volatility. And your first order of business is probably going to be looking for stuff in the smaller, more affordable markets, and in those that are typically lost in decent numbers, such as interdictors, which have to risk, of course, going in between the enemy fleets, and the stealth bombers, which when a bombing run goes wrong, it goes wrong horribly. So I think I'm gonna stick with this set for the Take-Two market now, and then it's all about keeping a close eye on Nasdaq activity to try and spot potential sell opportunities, and then keeping a close eye on the market itself for buy opportunities, such as here the Crow decently low, for instance, but especially the stealth bomber market I think could be pretty interesting. Next up, Tech3 market, 55.15. All right, let's move on to these. Confessor bumping back up a little bit towards 41 million. I think that was bound to happen at some point. So yeah, I told you guys that maybe you could look into buying these confessors at 34-35 million. It's a little bit risky because of the nerfs, but here now you can see the jump up to 41 million. Sellers are at 41.2, buyers are at 36.7, already less than the sellers of last week. So fresh supply, it's okay, more than half a front page. So to see this new supply jumping in on this, unfortunately means that it'll be short-lived. But I do think that this will have turned out to be a buy opportunity in the longer term. The Hecate next, let's take a look at that one. So 41.42 for the Confessor. Hecate still going down, but average prices, you could put that at 40 million. So increased volumes as well. Sellers are at, that's weird. So this was wrong or not? Nope, 40 million. So is all of this fresh supply? Yeah, all right. The Hecate has been unfortunately burnt on fresh supply. Last 2 days, you can see 2 full pages going down to 37.5 million for the sellers, 35 million for the buyers. I would say, yeah, it could be okay to try and pick up a few very cheap Hecates at around 36 million or something like that on the buyers. If this dumping is still happening, you might be able to pick those up. And then if the Confessor pattern happens again, you might have an opportunity to make a bit of profit. The Jackdaw next, also recovering a little bit, but up to 40 million and then going back down on fresh supply, I suppose. Let's take a look. Yeah, all of this in the last 24 hours is of course going to drive the price back down to 38 million. Buyers are 35.5 million. So it's pretty risky to do this. As you can see, the price up to 40 million was only for a couple of days. But when you're seeing the Hecate dumping down in price like this, oversupplied, no demand, then I do think if you're fast enough and don't do this with all your money, do this with maybe 5-6 Hecates or something like that to start out with, to see if you can actually make some money on that. And that's what I would do. Then there are slight opportunities in these destroyers despite the oversupply situation in general. Here's this vehicle. That one is probably hit pretty badly by the nerf bat because it's now going for 31 million. And people are still dumping these, so it's all up to you, but you can pick up vehicles for less than 30 million at the moment. How long will that last? I can't see this last forever, honestly, and this should recover at some point. So again, don't go crazy, don't put all your money in this, but a little bit I think could make you a little bit of money as well. Next up, the cruisers. Here's the Legion chart. After around 1 hour, my voice does start to give away a little bit, but the Legion under pressure in the last 2 days, very interesting, going for 120 million, 131 for the sellers, 115, 116 for the buyers. Fresh supply starting to slow down. So very interesting. The Legion, very cheap at the moment. These are good prices. Do you want to move in on this for a couple of Legions? I think I would personally, because this does look like general oversupply in the last week, putting pressure on the price, and now you can pick up a couple of cheap Legions. Here's the Loki then. After dumping down like the Legion is doing at the moment, 210 million, we're recovering to, we were up to 130, now 120, so still pretty low. Fresh supply average, nothing too special, 128 for the sellers of Lokis, 117 for the buyers of Lokis. We're talking cheap Tech 3 ships at the moment, so it's for your consideration. Proteus under pressure clearly as well, going down towards 150 million, 149 for the sellers, 139 for the buyers. Not a lot of buy orders in the market at the moment. So and fresh supply, let's take a look at that. Full front page of new Protea. Obviously that one is still going for more than the Legion and the Loki, and so they're driving this price down as well. And then finally we've got Tengu, which we know from the ticker is going down as well towards 140 million. Quite a sharp drop once again. Fresh supply, yeah, full front page, more than that. Oh my god, 1.5 to 2 pages of new Tengus coming in. Lack of demand, we are going to build a bottom on this one as well. So the Tech 3 market I think could be interesting for medium-term investments, because a lot of these are crashing down quite substantially, and I cannot see this last forever, to be honest. So I think my next trip to Jita, I might want to try a couple of buy orders on some of these Tech 3 ships, and then keeping an eye on those for a sell opportunity later down the line. And for the extra material, this week I've got one request, so I'm gonna honor that. 1 hour and 40 seconds. It's for transcranial microcontrollers. No idea what we're actually talking about, so let's go. Transcranial microcontrollers, which is manufacturing and research materials, planetary materials, specialized planetary materials. So it's a PI material. What I'm seeing on this one specifically is that we had a decently weak to average summer here, bit of a spike in September, but probably more of anomalous data points than anything else. And now after a strong November up to almost 100,000 ISK, we are back down to 85,000 ISK, which on the 1 year chart though is definitely above average. So we had a decently weak summer, slightly below average, and at the moment we're not at the high point anymore, but it's still definitely okay to sell some transcranial microcontrollers. Looking at this chart, I might want to try to do an EVE talk on the full 1 year chart next week, although you do see a lot less detail than on the 6-month chart, and the final trends may be a bit easier to spot here as well. So I actually like this one as well. We will see. We'll see what I decide to do, as long as I have fun. So transcranial microcontrollers, specialized planetary material, currently selling for 92,000 ISK. Buyers are at 79,000 ISK. There is, well, average supply. It's not being flooded by sellers at the moment, and you're selling for a bit above average right now. So it's a good time to sell, and your buy opportunities were in September, October. So this could have been an okay trade. 75,000 ISK, 77,000 ISK to buy, and currently selling for 90,000 ISK. That's definitely an okay trade to make as well, although a little bit more gambly than some of the other ones, such as the test cultures, which you've seen before in this EVE talk. And there you go, guys. Oh, actually, it's not always giving me the very final part of the chart, but we'll try to get all of that fixed as I get acquainted with all of the new charts that CSB is working on. And there we go. That's it for this EVE talk, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.